Curious how plumbing has changed over the years? Let's explore what it's like starting out now compared to when I did 40 years ago. When I started in plumbing, it was a different world. No tech, just hard work.
When I started 20 years ago, things were already different from when the old man started.
And today, it's even more advanced. Join to see how things have evolved and what it means for new plumbers today. And I'm not that freaking old. So literally, I remember the first time I went in and applied for a plumbing job. I was told to ask for $4.25 an hour. It was from a brother of a real good friend of mine, and he was working at a plumbing company down in Dallas. Now, I had quit high school. Luckily, I went back later and graduated, but I had quit high school, and I called him and I said, look, can you help me get a job? He said, absolutely. So he actually picked me up, took me down to the company to apply. And when I went in, I filled out everything. And instead of $4.25, I wrote down $4.75. So I was really happy when they said, yeah, you can start tomorrow. Probably not a smart idea, but I went for it. But here's the thing. I knew nothing about the trades, and that's what you all need to understand. I knew nothing about plumbing. I had never done plumbing. I mean, we had plumbing at home, but that was about it. But I remember that from the very beginning. Now, it was a little different when you went down and applied.
Well, it was a lot different for me because my whole family was plumbers. I mean, this is my dad, y'all. So I can remember the first day I was intrigued when you pulled out a torch and I saw you soldering, and I just kind of was in the truck and you just had to go by and do something real quick. And it was like, well, wait, I want to learn how to do that. But that was back, way when I was young. Now, whenever I started in an actual trade, like I started residential homes, doing rough ends was my day one in the field job. Was here. The ditches are dug. We're laying pipe. And I'm like, hey, I learned a little bit about how to do some piping for my dad, so let's get this going. And it was cool.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, and I know what it was like when you started because I was a superintendent at different companies. But I remember when I started, they give you, I think, a vest. They give you a hard hat. They give you safety glasses, and they give you a pair of gloves. And literally, you go to the job site. You put all that on, you get on the buck hoist, you go up to your floor, you get out, you take all that right back off and put it over by your toolbox. And you don't pick it up again until the end of the day when you get on the elevator to go back down.
Nothing like that when I was on a real job where they...
Oh, these were real jobs. It's a big bank remodel.
I understand. When I hit, like compared to my residential start out, if I wanted to wear gloves, I could. Right. If I wanted to wear safety glasses, I could.
And hard hats weren't even worn then.
I would typically wear a baseball hat just for whenever I truly was doing top outs in case I bumped my head on something.
So, yeah, baseball capping not helping a lot.
That's it. But whenever I hit a commercial job, a real job site, hard hat, safety glasses, vest, gloves, we had to keep them on all the time.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And even by the time you started 20 years later, a lot of people put on safety glasses because they said it's required you wear them. And we put them on and put them up on our forehead. And they're like, you got to put your safety glasses. It says, you just said I had to wear them. You didn't say they got to be in place or anything like that. And I mean, it was an argument. It's like, look, you just told me I had to have them on. So safety is probably one of the biggest changes that I've seen over the years. But then the next one is technology, because you look at plumbers these days, even some of the last big commercial jobs that I was on, you carried an iPad around with you. You could pull up any blueprint. If you had problems, you could mark it and it would be sent to the right project managers at like real time. And just things have changed a lot.
I was going to say a lot of that's tied in with a whole team. So as you're writing it, some notifications are pinging somebody in the office going, oh, hey, look, there's something that we've got to adjust. Let's gather the team and get this thing done.
Yeah, and it's funny, too, because, I mean, you went into the office later, but I remember going into the office at smaller plumbing companies earlier, and they've got blueprints laid out, but they're doing the entire takeoff on a legal pad. Yep. And they're writing down all the numbers. They're adding everything up, and they're like, "Look, it's like, what are y'all doing, man?" It's like we're bidding a job. It's like, "Oh wow, this is cool." You're an estimator later.
Yes.
You probably didn't even have a legal pad on your desk.
I did not, but I learned from an elderly gentleman, of course, Mr. Jack Burke. Thank you. He did have a tick sheet, as he called it, so that you could go through and do a manual takeoff, and he'd kind of show it to me because I was always intrigued by how things used to be done. Not that that's how I always want to do it, but I was just curious how it's evolved. And that's what this is about.
And another thing, too, the first day they hired me back then, you're on the job the next day. And nowadays, I mean, I remember, which, you know, I've been in the union. I went to a few different companies. And every time you come in, you go through like a full day orientation. There's even sometimes where it's even longer than a full day orientation. And there's even some projects that you go out on. The safety orientation may be a day or two.
Yep.
Because you've got to know who the key people are, who the general superintendent is, who all their superintendents are, who the safety personnel are. And then you've got to go in through, well, this is when we take break on this job site. This is where the areas you can eat are. Here's all the safety equipment you're required to wear while on the job site 100% of the time. I mean, some jobs you even log in and out so they know if you're on the job site.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, like 20 years ago, I feel like, you know, we kind of did a 1-2 hour training maybe. And then, oh, yep, turn you loose. Here, go for it. But now, like anybody that hires in, most of the companies I worked at, it's 8 hours minimum. And that was just before they stepped first foot on a job site. But then once they got to that job site, there was a site orientation also. So like it's all evolved so much to help keep people safe.
You know, and one of the other most important things I think is, or the way that we get to learn things. When I started plumbing in 1980, there wasn't a YouTube. There wasn't social media. There wasn't the World Wide Web. I mean, we had the local library that you had to go down to and look for the books or try to find a book that would teach you what you wanted to learn and check it out and carry it home and read it and bring it back or else you got in trouble. And a lot of things like that, I mean, that was just what it was. If you wanted to learn the trade back then, you had to work under a really good plumber at a really good company that gave them time to teach you, time to educate you, or you had to go down to the library and learn it all yourself. With you, I mean, you came in through the union, so you got to learn a lot there.
I got to learn a lot from a lot of different people. And then as we progressed further, now, hey, if you run into trouble, you're working with a journeyman that's stubborn and stuff, doesn't want to answer your questions. You know, I ran into that occasionally coming through. You'd run into the couple that didn't want to help as much. Now you can pull up YouTube, look it up, search on the internet. It's on our hips now. So it's a lot different. And then like, you know, you're talking about technologies, it's like tools, you know, hammer drills. Back whenever you came up, I hope they were powered.
They were.
Okay, that's
we
good.
We had to stand it with it. You know, it looked like an egg beater. And
I
that's
tried
how we
to use
drilled
one of
holes.
those one time
I know,
because
it's pretty fun.
it
really is fun.
I think old tools are neat. I try to use them one, and it's like, oh my gosh, I love what we have now.
Oh, absolutely.
But I saw the latest one, and there's this rig that you put on, you strap on, and it holds
weight
the
for
hammer
you.
drill.
I know.
And you just reach out and drill. So
They make jackhammers the same way now.
exactly. And a lot of younger generation, something that I hear is, oh, well, I hear how bad it tears on everybody's body. It tore on his body way more than mine. And if you start now, it's going to tear on yours way less than mine. And I don't think it really tore mine up too bad.
I remember one of the first jobs that I worked on. I worked as a laborer for Capform, a big concrete company. And we were pouring the floors for a building over off Abrams. And it was really cool because it looked down over the Dallas Cowboy Training Center back when they were on Forest Lane. So literally it was a football field. And when you're on the second, third, fourth, maybe the fifth floor there and you're looking down, you're watching the Cowboys practice. And it's like, man, this is pretty cool. That was so much fun. But somebody had messed up something on a concrete pour, and I don't know if they vibrated it enough. So literally we had to chip it off. And they brought out like this 90-pound jackhammer. And I literally had a rope around my neck that would hold the body of it, where I could hold the end of it. And I mean, I'm just literally dealing with this jackhammer. And once we busted enough at the top of it that there was rebar coming up, we tie a rope on it and hang it down. And that way it's still not as heavy. But man, I spent many, many hours on a jackhammer like that. And it'll take a wear and tear on you.
For sure. And like everything, jobs, even when all through my years, started escalating even more. But a lot of that is because technologies have advanced to help speed up a lot of the processes too.
You know, it's funny because even though I'm a plumber and I've been plumbing for almost 45 years now, in the beginning, I wondered, is this the right thing for me? When I'm standing in a ditch filled with raw sewage, and I'm like, man, this is just nasty. But I understood at the time, or at least I thought I did, it can't get any worse than this. Now, over the years, I got out of plumbing a couple of times and tried other things, but I always came back to it. So I think the good thing is that I knew that I loved it. I love being part of a team, part of a group, part of a profession that takes so much pride in its work. I've been a cosmetologist, a bouncer, a bodyguard, a massage therapist, so many different things. And never in anything else have I ever done have I felt so much pride in everything I did at work every day. And there were times that I wondered if it was right for me, and I'd get out and try something else, or even try something else while I was still in plumbing. But I always ended up back in plumbing full time.
Yeah, I remember watching you through a lot of those transformations and trials and leading right back to plumbing. Yeah, I can remember one of the first times I was wondering if plumbing was right. It was rough ends and top outs. Well, we were doing a sewer tie-in, and it was about a 17-foot deep hole. Later, I learned what safety was in a proper hole, and I was like, oh my gosh, because even back then, I kind of looked up out of that hole, and it's like, holy crap, the things that could happen to me.
Like, and we don't think about that.
No, not at all. But when you're young and just getting in, you kind of look up, and it's like, is this what I'm supposed to be doing or not? Let me try to figure this out. But I learned that's not on a normal day-to-day basis. That's not an always thing. And then I learned to appreciate the trade and the skills that it gave me. Like pride, yes, big time.
I hope this helps you a lot. I hope that this helps you understand, look, there's a lot of things changing each and every year, and it's different for all of us. So if you love this video, I definitely think you'll like that one.